we accept the President's words. They came from a place of anger and disappointment. I'm sure many Americans feel the same way.
The President was right to let loose his feelings. It shocked us into understanding the severity of the harm our people caused.
These criminals betrayed America's welcoming spirit. The scale of these crimes has stained the reputation of American Somalis.
America's freedoms allowed us to build a unique community here in Minnesota. In return, we must promise to weed out any evil living among us.
This evil came from within our community. And so, as an honorable community, we take responsibility. We must correct this wrongdoing.
The only way to regain the trust of this nation is to root out crime, stay humble, and be forever grateful. That's the premise.
So, as honorable Somalis, we are going to take on the responsibility of apologizing to all Americans. We are deeply, deeply sorry.
The shame of this will haunt us forever. And hopefully over time you will come to forgive us. Thank you.
I have to admit, this is pretty good trolling.
Hey Americans, why grind a 9 to 5 when you can babysit ghost children and pocket like $4 million in taxpayers' cash? Why? No kids, no crayons, no mess, just pure easy money. We are talking about empty buildings like the Quality Learning Center.
Leering Center. Leering. Get it right.
Yeah, they can't even spell, and they are babysitting. Locked doors, 0 toddlers tumbling around. But hey, they scored nearly $2 million this year alone. For Minnesota Daycare's program.
Making it like a commercial to come open your own daycare center. Yeah, I see what you did there. That's pretty good rage bait, my guy. I'm gonna have to admit that. Because everybody's pissed off about this. Well, at least most people with a brain. Why don't you tag this guy in the comments and let him know what you think.
You won't believe this. The Somali community in the US is now apologizing and promising change. But many people are asking, will action actually follow the words? For some, it's a moment of accountability. For others, it raises questions about whether the words will lead to meaningful change. The reactions have been mixed. Some people see the apology as a positive step forward, while others remain skeptical and want to see real actions that match the message. In this video, we are breaking down what was said, how people are responding, and what this moment could mean for the Somali community and the broader American public. So, stick with me.
Who's this? No, I don't like Somalis. I don't want them in my country, and they bring absolutely nothing of value here. And I know people are going to sit there and scream and cry, oh my gosh, the statistics, they're so racist. But at the end of the day, the facts are the facts, and I'm not going to apologize for that. I mean, genuinely, what have they brought of value here? And I'm not saying that they're all bad on an individual level. I understand that people who lack nuance aren't going to be able to comprehend that as a collective they're bad. Individuals, I'm sure that there are some that are fine, just like any other population. But if you look at the violent crime statistics, you would see that it's not stopping when they get to America. Somalia has a terrible problem with violent crime. They come into places like Minnesota, and despite being an extremely disproportionate amount of the population, their violent crime rates are sky high. It's absolutely disgusting, doing some of the worst atrocities like raping young girls, because over there in their country, they do not value women. They do not see them as an equal, and they are totally okay with things like child marriage. In fact, when there was a law proposed to raise the marriage age to 18 years old, the protest got so bad from the grown men that the courts decided that they were just going to leave it at the age of 9. Is that what you want brought into your country? Is that what you want around your wives, your sisters, your daughters, just other human beings? Is that what you want to bring into this country so that you could feel better about being a white warrior? I'm sorry, that's absolutely disgusting. We know that once they got into this country, were they grateful? Did they work harder to make it better? No. They scammed the welfare system out of millions while Tim Walz just sat back and allowed them to do so. That's absolutely abhorrent. We know that Somalia is one of the most dangerous countries for Christians going, so why would we bring them into a predominantly Christian country where they're going to go around trying to propose their views, force their views down people's throats? Because in Islam, that's something that's seen as permissible to do. We know that they have a huge terrorism problem, so why would we invite that into our country? Just because a country is poor and struggling does not automatically mean that it's America's problem. I'm sorry, but they're poor and they're struggling because of who they are as people. So many other countries have been dealt a bad hand and they've been able to figure it out. Countries such as Somalia aren't able to because of the people living there. We do not need to import them to make our country worse. Sorry.
I agree with her because I don't think that this has anything to do with racism against Somalis whatsoever. This has everything to do with cultural norms. This has everything to do with whether or not they're taking advantage of the system. When you talk about violent crime, which I wasn't even familiar with that statistic, that's news to me. But it makes sense because you don't change who you are just because you move. You take you with you. So if you move to another place, but then you adopt the same principles, which accurately explains all of the fraud that's now being uncovered over in Minneapolis and people finessing the system and Ilhan Omar completely ignoring it, acting like she sent the letter and all of that. Well, now it starts to make sense because your culture is the same. And so you feel entitled to this land, even though you're not necessarily contributing into it. And so it's not racist to say that you don't want people in your country when you understand that it's completely being taken over and destroyed from people that don't necessarily appreciate what was built and what blood was spilled in order to get to where we are. And so now we have a bunch of white apologist women that are basically justifying because they feel so hurt at the fact that Trump is holding them accountable and saying that everybody that come into this country shouldn't be here, that you should be a contributor and you should be a person that actually adds.
So how does everybody feel about the Somali immigrants who have reportedly set up like fake medical companies and are defrauding the United States government of insane amounts of tax money? Apparently it's so bad that the FBI has made a statement stating that the Somali tax fraud schemes and government schemes are at a level that they could have never anticipated. And they're basically, from what it sounds like, devoting an entire fucking task force just to this bullshit. Okay? So what does this teach us and what does this show us? It shows us that people who come from these broken down hellhole countries do not come here to help America. They come here to rob America and destroy America. If they're not trying to spread Islam and bump Islamic prayers through the loudspeakers, okay, then what they're trying to do is rob hardworking Americans of their money. So when you ask me the question of, do I support open borders? Absolutely not. Close them, completely close them. If you want to come to America, you got to show us why you're worthy. And you being worthy means you're bringing something here. You're either paying us money, a big sum of it, or you're bringing business over here, or you're doing something that's going to benefit the United States. You're not just going to come here because you got an American dream. That dream's not for you. It's for American citizens. You don't get that fucking dream.
Your favorite Somalian freeloader. Hey, thank you for your tax dollar. I'm eating really good. Thank you for taking care of me. I love you, Americans. You've been such a hospitality. Not hostility. You show us hospitality. That's good. We appreciate you. Because of your tax dollar, I get to eat 5 times a day. Before, it was 80 cents. They used to send us back in Africa, 80 cents. Now, I get this EBT card loaded each month with 400 to 500. The freeloader, your favorite freeloader. I'm enjoying myself. Enjoying this food. Taking vacation here. I'm in my free house provided for me by Enhan. So I'm enjoying myself. Please do not disturb me.
81% of Somali immigrants in Minnesota are on welfare, and that trend does not get better as time goes on. I want you to remember this anytime a Democrat talks about bringing down the national debt, because if Democrats had their choice, every type of immigrant we brought in would be just like this.
When a Somali goes to the doctor, magically, they forgot how to speak English, so they need an interpreter there. So the county brings in an interpreter at $100 an hour, minimum 8 hours, to interpret what the doctor is telling the patient.
So that's another layer of fraud that nobody's even talked about or revealed.
And it's millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars all on its own. Interpreter services.
Yeah, because what percentage do you think of these people, especially if they were born here in the United States, they speak English, right? Like
of course they do.
They should not be saying no English.
And then remember, the interpreter has to get to the doctor's office or the hospital. How are they getting there? The transportation company, and then they got to get back home. And that patient had to get to the doctor's office. How? Transportation. Kids got to get to school. How? Transportation. That's why I said the transportation is the hub of, really, I think, all of this.
So basically what we're talking about between all these fraudulent businesses, the daycare, the autism centers, the adult daycare, the home services, and then the transportation. And then on top of that, you have it looped in with them going eventually to the doctors for translators to be paid by the state.
That's exactly what's happening, yes.
If I were to ask you right now, Somalis that go to Minnesota, after having lived in America for 10 years, what percentage of them do you think still take welfare? Let me ask the question one more time. Somalis, after having lived in America, Minnesota, for 10 years, what percentage of them take welfare still after 10 years? Rob, can you pull this up now, please? Watch this, folks. When you look at this chart, it shows the gray shows Somali immigrant households in Minnesota after 10 years. Look how many of them are still taking welfare.
Does that say 81%? What does that say?
78% of those who have been here more than 10 years. So if some of the newer people that are here, okay, maybe a year, 6 months, 3 months, more than 10 years, 78%.
The Somalian community leaders coming out and apologizing for their people stealing all this money. Check this out, and I'll be back.
We accept the president's words. They came from a place of anger and disappointment. I'm sure many Americans feel the same way.
The president was right to let loose his feelings. It shocked us into understanding the severity of the harm our people caused.
These criminals betrayed America's welcoming spirit. The scale of these crimes has stained the reputation of American Somalis.
America's freedoms allowed us to build a unique community here in Minnesota. In return, we must promise to weed out any evil living among us.
This evil came from within our community. And so, as an honorable community, we take responsibility. We must correct this wrongdoing.
The only way to regain the trust of this nation is to root out crime, stay humble, and be forever grateful. That's the premise.
So, as honorable Somalis, we are going to take on the responsibility of apologizing to all Americans. We are deeply, deeply sorry.
The shame of this will haunt us forever. And hopefully over time you will come to forgive us. Thank you.
So yeah, y'all could be sorry, but somebody need to go to jail. Yeah, just like if we got caught in fraud, we go to jail. So sorry, not sorry. Lock that ass up. It is what it is. Peace.
At the end of the day, apologies and statements are only the first steps in any effort to rebuild trust. Communities grow and move forward, not just through words, but through consistent actions over time. When tension arises between two different groups, the real test comes in how many people respond afterwards, whether they choose to double down on division or work towards understanding. For the Somali communities in the United States, moments like this highlight the importance of dialogue, accountability, and mutual respect. Many people within the communities have built successful lives here, contributing to local economies, neighborhoods, and civic lives. At the same time, rebuilding trust requires acknowledging concerns, listening to criticism, and demonstrating a willingness to move forward in a constructive way. The broader question now is whether this moment becomes another online controversy that fades away or the beginning of the more honest conversation between communities. Because in the diverse society like the United States, long-term progress depends on something simple but powerful: respect, responsibility, and the willingness to learn from the past. What do you think about the apology and the reaction it's generating? I want to hear your perspective concerning this, and kindly share your thoughts in the comments below respectfully. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a conversation. See you in my next video.